Hey guys, what's going on? And welcome to another edition of the Evolution of Sports Talk Television live here nightly on Bucs Report. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. And on tonight's show, we'll talk about the NFL Network's announcement on the first preseason game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What does that mean for a certain watch party going forward? Big time news there. The Bucs make a signing yesterday, which we missed. We'll also talk about a latest story coming through here on USA Today about how explosive the Bucs as an offense could be. So a lot of interesting predictions, a lot of interesting articles, and of course I'll have my co-host tonight, Mr. Ray Kennedy, joining me because he has some thoughts on it. As always, we always start off the Sports Web. Bring your passion, bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. Again, I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. So what's going on, Cornell? What's going on, Blake? What's going on, Frank? And what's going on, Matt? And you know what? Because we don't have Ray in here yet, if one of the Bucs Report staff members, Blake Cabell, wants to tune in here and get on and talk about this announcement from NFL Network or anything that's on your mind, we can definitely do it. Hopefully you can hear me loud and clear. But let's get to it. The NFL Network announced on Tuesday that the Buccaneer preseason game, the first one against the Pittsburgh Steelers, which will be August 9th, will be nationally televised. Of course, locally, it will be broadcast by WFLA Channel 8 starting at 7:30. What does that mean for us? Well, as I promised you, when the Bucs are on the road, which they will be in this preseason game, we will be doing some watch parties live at Ferg's 1320 Central Avenue. What does that mean? Even though it's a preseason game, we'll have your pregame show, your halftime show, and of course, your postgame show. So fans out there locally, if you want to get involved into this process, we can get you on the pre-show and also the post-game show live at Ferg's. Definitely get out there. So we will have the Sports Web, Blake and Blake Sports, whoever's involved on this end with the watch parties, whether it's Al Keck or Leo Haggerty. Of course, I'll be out there, Blake Cabell, Ray Kennedy. All of us are pretty excited to start this 2019 season up. And the NFL Network's announcement just makes it even better because it is a nationally televised game. Even though it's a preseason game, it's still pretty cool. So with that being said, also the Tampa Bay Buccaneers signed their third-round pick, cornerback out of Auburn, 6'2", 200 pounds, Jamel Dean, 73 tackles, 2 interceptions, 17 passes defensed, the fastest 40 time as a corner at the combine. Of course, he overcame 2 knee injuries, so that's big-time news. The one player that remains to be unsigned at this point is going to be Devin White. And of course, the Bucs don't start camp until July 26th. So they have to get him signed, and I think they're going to. At this point, I think everybody is looking forward to training camp. Everybody's looking forward to the preseason and even the regular season, even with, those first 7 road games. It's going to be tough, but it's definitely going to be interesting. So I'll tell you what, let's take some comments here from Bucs Report, as we always call this, the evolution of sports talk television. Why do we call it that? We're live from RPB Studios, but we take your questions. I feel like sports talk in general doesn't get the fans enough responses. We don't hang up on you. We're not going to get you on and get you off. And of course, tomorrow night we'll have Leo Haggerty on what the hell were they thinking with letting fans come on and talk with us here on the Sports Web. So what's going on, Christopher? What's going on, Blake? Absolutely the Sports Web. What's going on, Misador? Indiana Buckaholics will be at Old Chicago Pizza in Maryville for that game. Come one, come all. Good stuff. And maybe, who knows, maybe we can hook up, get you on Be Live and see what that atmosphere is all about. Because I like to use this app whenever there's an opportunity to get some fan response. That's what we're going to do. Primetime preseason, we are moving up, and I definitely could see this team moving up and getting the national exposure because of Bruce Arians being a high-profile coach. And it also depends on the success of this team early on in the season. If they get off to a fast start, you're going to start to see some of these games that were supposedly flexed on Sunday night. Maybe it falls into their favor. We shall see. Preseason games are really boring. So many trying to make a roster. The only people that benefit are the coaches and those third string wannabes. That is not true. I don't think it's boring. Of course, you're not going to be able to see, the first team that much, right? We don't know how long you're going to be able to see them, but maybe a quarter, maybe 2 quarters. Of course, the real game to watch for the preseason game is usually the third one, where the first string offense gets the extended work. Go to the tape. He plays well inside out. He has decent footwork for a rookie. Yeah, he will have issues, but with playing time, he will improve. And Misador says Dean will start at nickel by week 5. I guess it's certainly possible at this point. And of course, we'll have Ray Kennedy on tonight as he's just tuned in. I sent you the link, so definitely get in here. And I know you have something to say. Want to have a correction. Last night said that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. won the home run derby contest. That was actually not true. It was Pete Alonso, player for the New York Mets, of course, local plant high product out of Tampa, University of Florida graduate. So there you go. Pete Alonso from the New York Mets wins the home run derby. Phil says, what's up, guys? We have White signed ASAP. Moving money still, I'm sure they'll definitely get it done. Why are they dragging these signings out? I would think all the drafted players have slotted earning scales. That's very true. But you don't know what the Bucs are trying to do, what they're trying to move around at this point. So I think in the next couple weeks or next couple days, actually, we should see a signing. Blake Anthony, he will make VH3 expendable. Wow. Misador, my only concern is if that happens, then we aren't playing well in the secondary weeks 1 and 5. Later, all got to get back to the grind. All right, Misador, thanks a lot for tuning in. Indiana Buckaholics, and they have a big time announcement with the game in Detroit. We'll get that information for you. We get 3 to 3 or better to start. This D is that good. If we get to 3-3 and the defense is that good, we're going to be okay. Got to keep up with our offense, which is proven, minus mistakes, jacked up. Good year ahead. If these rooks get it done, we're in for a good run. Build the confidence, gents. Bucs Nation, we coming. Fire those cannons, defend the Bay, ride or die. I like this guy. Philip, thanks a lot for tuning into the evolution of sports talk television. Matt says Arians was pretty high on VH3 until that missed practice. I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think so either, but it's always good to have a Dean, to have a Sean Bunting and a VH3 and a Carlton Davis, because now you have that competition, which is going to be great. Thanks a lot for tuning in, Philip Schwegler. Mr. Keith Larson is tuned in. What's going on? Who's going to take over for JPP? I think they're going to have a combination. Of course, it's going to be Carl Nassib. It's also going to be Anthony Nelson and Shaq Barrett. Those type of players they're going to depend on. And also William Ghostin and Noah Spence, I definitely think are going to get the opportunity to take over for him. So the Bucs are going to have some unproven commodities, but they're going to have an opportunity to play very early. With seeing JPP yesterday and the neck brace, not necessarily an encouraging sign, but he says he'll be back by October, so we shall see. Thunder want to trade Russell Westbrook. Should Orlando Magic make the move? Absolutely not. Don't make that move, because you may have to get rid of your young core and Aaron Gordon. Westbrook, to me, is a very selfish player, and though there is a need there for the Orlando Magic to get a player like a Westbrook, how much do you have to give up? OKC has already gotten another first-round pick, so they have about 4 or 5 that they've gotten in trades. They're going to want some young assets. If I'm the Orlando Magic, I say no. Plus, you have to take on that salary. So let's talk to Mr. Tampa Bay Ray Kennedy here live on the evolution of Sports Talk Television. Welcome in, my friend. How you doing?
I'm good, brother. How are you tonight?
Just turn up your volume just a tad for me, if you could.
Let me see now. Can you hear me now?
I could. You got to turn up your volume just a little bit. Maybe I'll turn up my volume on my end. Hold on a sec here. Let's see. All right, go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, can you hear me now, Pete?
I can hear you, buddy. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm going hands. I'm going with the phone tonight. I got no laptop set up. How you doing, brother?
Doing great, buddy. Doing great. A lot of talk, a lot of excitement. I mean, it seems like a minimal announcement. Really, it's not. NFL Network has made this preseason game a nationally televised game. As I've talked about with fans, when the Bucs are on the road, we're going to have these watch parties involving the sports web. Yours truly, Ray Kennedy, Al Keck, Leo Haggerty, Travis Bailey, Allison Kohler, Blake, Cabell, everybody that we can get out there that has something to say about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and that matchup. We're going to try to get out there at Ferg's 1320 Central Avenue in St. Pete, and we're going to start doing that during the preseason. I want to know what you think about that.
Well, and we've talked about this, like going back to the Orlando Apollos and our AAF watch parties we had out at Ferg's, and we were kind of feeling it out, seeing how we lay of the land. And I've been a Bucs fan my entire life, well, at least since I was 7 years old when they were incepted. But and I've been to parties, we've been to groups, been a season ticket holder, but there
Sure.
is just something that just brings to the table getting together with a group of fans, group of people, group of friends like yourselves, myself, Derek Jones, Philip, Brett, and being able to get together and watch a game real time and having our reactions. Even like when we're at the stadium and there's 60,000 plus people on a good day, and we're high fiving and talking to our friends. But the thing that affords us with our watch parties out at Ferg's is that we're dissecting and breaking down each play by play, and I don't mean in a bad way, like we're trying to figure out, why this was there or why that. But we're trying to predict the next. Like they're coming out with that real time betting app that the AAF was so protective of. We think that might be one of the treasures they're holding on to. That's what
Right.
those watch parties brings to the table is the interaction with all of us fans, because we're all fans, and it just brings a whole new excitement to the game.
It does. Ray, you want to get somebody else from Bucs Report on here? This guy's sticking his tongue out. He's ready to come on. It's my co-host of Blake and Blake Sports, Mr. Blake Cabell. Welcome to the party, my friend, on the sports web, the evolution of sports talk television. How you doing tonight?
Doing great, sir. How are you doing?
His volume's a little bit better than yours, Ray. I don't know what's going on, but it's good enough at this point. We'll
Who's
work
that?
with it.
Who's that? Tampa Ray Kennedy put the M in
Tampa Bay
Montreal.
Ray Kennedy.
He
Yes,
puts the
sir.
M in Montreal.
Put the R in redneck there, Blake. How are you?
Wow. You guys in your Montreal and your rednecks. All right, what's on your mind, Blake?
Oh no, I was just ready to jump in, man. Ray was going on. I was going to jump in after he was done. Put my 2 cents in, agree or disagree. You know how we do around here at Bucs Report.
Sure.
So
Let me ask you this, Blake. I mean, it is the first preseason game of the year, and of course, we've got the coverage here on TV8 WFLA, which we have every year in the preseason. But what kind of even from the veterans who will play limited amount of maybe the first quarter all the way through the rookies and free agents that are trying to make the team, what kind of excitement do you think that having that nationally televised coverage on the NFL Network is going to bring that first game in Pittsburgh?
For us, for fans aren't really too in tune to preseason. A handful of people enjoy preseason games because you get to watch young college players get their chance on the NFL scene, et cetera, et cetera. But for the players, they're going to be overly excited. It's a prime time. It's going to be exciting. My only thing in preseason, I want our starters to get our reps in. But my thing in preseason is just get out of there injury free. Get your reps in and get out of there. I could care less about the score. I truly, honestly, if everybody comes out injury free, that's a win for me.
Yeah, no, and I think a lot of fans out there are excited to just see,
football.
The helmet and the shoulder. Right, they're ready to see football. We've been talking about it. It seems like forever now, and I think this has been one of the longest off seasons ever.
Feels like it,
but it really does, and it's not a bad thing because you always like the conversation. But at the end of the day, we all here on Bucs Report, we want to talk football. We want to see them strap it up. You get that first opportunity, and maybe it's a couple series. But hey, you got to get that work in. And then once you get to that third preseason game, then really that's when you start to judge. Even then, maybe the second preseason game. You just don't know how Bruce Arians and this coaching staff is going to go about it. They may do a couple of series, or they may play the first half in the first preseason game. I doubt it, because from what I've saw, before in the history of preseason games with the Bucs or any other team, they usually play a couple of series, and then you get your second and your third stringers in there to get some work.
Well, with preseason, the main thing you're going to want to see, I know for a fact, is going to be with Bruce Arians, is you just want to see you want to see how well everybody is meshed together. You don't want to see a whole lot of false starts. You don't want to see a whole lot of mental errors. But as far as not catching a one-on-one ball, or you lost a one-on-one matchup in a certain spot, I mean, that's not really the real focal point. You just get better as the weeks go on, but you don't want to see a whole bunch of mental errors in preseason after going through that whole offseason of practicing. So, and I think Arians is going to be on the same way. He's going to be really skeptical about injuries in this offseason and not get your best players injured before the season even starts.
Right. And with the Todd Bowles defense, I mean, for so many years, we've always said when it comes to the offense in the preseason, we've had none so many years. And we always said, oh, well, coach was sitting on that offense, not showing anything in the preseason. And then quite a few times we get into the regular season and there just was no offense. But, right. So, but with the Todd Bowles defense, I'll be looking for not so much schematic alignments or anything like that, but I'll be looking for backside pursuits, getting to the ball and setting the tone early in the preseason as to what kind of aggressive defense they're going to play throughout the year.
Basic fundamentals.
Yeah, I got an idea. I want to throw this idea at you guys because we're live here on the Sports Web, the evolution of sports talk television. I'm your host, Peter Blake, along with Mr. Ray Kennedy, Blake Cabell, Blake and Blake Sports. We have a Bucs report night where I get on Be Live. We get you one-on-one, or we get you two at a time, and we just talk about our thoughts, give our thoughts in sports. Doesn't necessarily have to be all Bucs related, but I think we should just take that time out, because I know we do shows together on Saturdays, but just take one night out a week and just get everybody that's involved with Bucs report on the Sports Web. How about that?
Excellent. Good. All right. Great idea. And I want to have us all at Ferg's. Want to have like a round table. We get all of our Bucs report, all of our staff from our Bucs report, and just have an interactive roundtable. Basically, like something you would see on, any one of your sports 4-letter sport networks, where you'll have all your people sitting around, and we can just have, because, and I mean, I'm sure anytime you get a group of Buck fans together, you're going to have an interesting conversation. But sometimes some of those conversations, and they get heated, they get, they're passionate, we're passionate, and get some of that out there. And then also added the added bonus of having fans be able to comment and or do Be Lives and get in there with us, because it's really what it's all about. We're all just talking to each other because we're all just loving the Bucs and loving to talk.
Yeah, well, I think we do that every time. We do the round table. I mean, it's a bar. It's not necessarily a round table, but I love doing that stuff at Ferg's, Blake and Blake Sports, and the Sports Web. So let me read some comments here, and then we'll get back to a main story that I got thrown at the last minute, and I was kind of trying to take some notes down. I wanted to get your thoughts on this story, because it's kind of echoing what somebody on this show has been saying all along. Just saying. Rendak says, we can hear everyone fine. Good. Corey says we will see a Super Bowl host in London or Mexico. Is that a possibility, guys? Well, London or Mexico for a Super Bowl?
The last 2 years, like I said in that article I wrote today, not to promote myself, but in the last 2 years, 7 of the teams that have been played over in England have made the playoffs. So, just playing overseas in England isn't necessarily a death sentence as to whether you're going to make the playoffs or not. In the Bucs case, right, of course, obviously it's going to be that 49-day, 7-week period between home games that, happens to, come bookend that game in New England. It's going to have a big factor, I think, on our season record.
You talking about surviving October?
Surviving October. Yeah.
I told him to say that all year. You're gonna hear me saying it. Surviving October. That's where the season's gonna be won and lost. Surviving October.
Well, it's more than October, isn't it, Blake? Doesn't it start in late September?
Hey, that's even worse.
I mean, yeah, there's that stretch there, and it's gonna be a survival of the fittest at this point. It's gonna be a good teaching tool.
The week before we play what, the Panthers on the 13th of October. The week before we have what, the Bears are playing.
Yeah.
It escapes me now. The Bears are playing another team, so the Bears are definitely a potential playoff team. And then later on in the year, of course, you have the Ravens playing over there, and then you even have the game in Mexico City between the Rams and the Chiefs. So I mean, it's not like the olden days back when in 2009 and 2011 when the Bucs went over and played there. It almost felt like, well, they're the team that's just not getting the home game attendance, and they're having bad seasons. Let's throw them over to England. In the last few years, we're seeing that there's teams with very good shots and very good rosters, or have had success even recently, as late as last year with the Chiefs in the championship game, the Rams in the Super Bowl, that'll be playing over there. So I think that there's definitely a chance that you could see your Super Bowl, at least one of your Super Bowl contenders could be one of the teams playing a game over there this year.
Well,
my opinion.
Go ahead, Blake.
I don't think it'll happen anytime soon, but it is a possibility. You do see the footwork happening towards that, something like that happening, some type of big event over in Mexico or London or wherever other destination that they choose in the future. I don't think it's going to be remotely really, really soon, but I think I'll go on the limb here. I say maybe within the next 20 years that something like that might get pushed. That would be something else they would have to break down with the CBA and all that other stuff. But the league is working towards that. I noticed Marshawn Lynch has gone overseas to teach football to other countries as well. So there are players, that stuff that we don't know about, that go over and are teaching football to these other countries as well.
Well, look, and it's like somebody told me a long time ago, when you can sell out a game in 8 to 10 minutes, the NFL is looking to expand over there.
Yep.
Now, will they have a full-time team over there? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Could they play a Super Bowl? Look, I never thought, guys, that they were ever going to play a Super Bowl outside in New York, and they did it, and it worked out just fine.
Yep.
So is it I think anything's a possibility as long as it makes the NFL money. And what you're watching right now is the evolution of Sports Talk Television nightly here on Bucs Report. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, along with Mr. Tampa Bay Ray Kennedy, Blake Cabell of Blake and Blake Sports. And let me read some comments here. Christopher Cole says just a month and a half away. Allison Kohler is tuned in. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Corey trolling at 1,000 tonight says play the preseason in the streets. Corey, no, we're not going to do that. That's not a good idea, Corey. You just need to go back and play video games. I think there was an NFL game called, or what was a game?
NFL Streets.
NFL Street. I mean, yeah, if you want to play in the street, you could play your PlayStation.
And we'll all go to Olive Garden right after that.
There you go. Exactly. We're going to show up to Olive Garden, all of us from Bucs Report, and just troll him one of these nights. We're going to
say we're here for Corey. We're family of Corey.
We're here for Corey. We're going to do a show with Corey, and he better cater. I mean, it's not a Philip Schwegler thing, okay?
No.
Philip still owes food to us. We're going to go into Olive Garden in Port Richey. We're definitely going to get fed, right, Corey Brown? A Bucs Report show.
That's right. We coming.
All right. Keith Larson says the three amigos. Rendak says it's going to be interesting to see how much tackling goes on in training camp.
Hardly any.
There's going to be some tackling. I think it's going to be a different atmosphere with no music, with no nonsense from Bruce Arians and this coaching staff overall. What's your opinion on that, Tampa Bay Ray Kennedy and Blake Cabell?
Go ahead, Ray.
Well, I think that he's probably going to end up easing off of that a little bit. I just mean that I think he's just setting the tone right off the bat. He's making it his brand. I'm not saying he's going to suddenly become Mr. Nice Guy, but we know that I don't want to say a player's coach, but he cares about his players enough to the point that I don't think he's not going to run a Tom Coughlin camp. I don't see that happening, strict by the rules. But as far as blasting and music and stuff like that, I think he was just trying to make the point or make an emphasis on the fact that in the last few years we've had talent. We've had some bad breaks and some bad defensive coordination, but I mean we've just seemed to have had some lackadaisical play, and I think it all does start in the preseason. So I think that he wanted to just make sure right up front to set the tone.
Go ahead, Blake.
Yep, I'm going to piggyback on that. I'm just going to use a different word. The culture change is what's going on. I said, so what's going to happen here? You're a two-time loser. And what I mean by a two-time loser, you're a 5-11 team 2 times in a row. If you guys were playing music and all that hoopla all the time, that's come to an end. I knew the sun, darkness falls on the just and the unjust. Joy comes in the morning. So that means there's a new culture that comes with Bruce Arians coming. You guys haven't earned the right to get these privileges with music and all this other stuff. So you need to come out, preseason on into regular season, knowing what you're doing, holding yourself accountable, which I like what Bruce Arians said when the little camp broke up. Don't be that guy. What he's basically doing is holding yourself accountable, not going out there getting yourself hurt, getting yourself arrested, et cetera, and see what the mindset of these folks are coming into this new season.
Yeah,
Right.
let's read some comments from Allison Kohler. She says NFL needs to focus on America. Olden days. she's laughing at you, Ray. Olden days. The olden days. I feel like you have wheel buggies and like wagons and stuff like that when you said olden days. I mean, it was only 10 years ago, Ray Kennedy. What's going on? Dang
Feels like 30.
Thanks, boy.
Yeah, it does. It does. We should do that. OG, somebody says. I guess Allison again. Scott McDonald, is the Midnight Madness show coming back? No. No, not unless you guys like to stay up at midnight. You want me to do a show at midnight, and
Peter's
then
too
again,
old.
look, I'm gonna be. Will you shut up? I'll be going 7 days a week. We'll be giving you plenty of Bucs coverage and NFL coverage during the week, so there'll be no reason to go Midnight Madness. You guys sleep.
I even got the promo for that, Peter. I'm Peter Blake in the Sports Way, giving you something to sleep about. Midnight Madness.
There you go. We'll put people to sleep at midnight. Good job, Blake Cabell. You're awesome.
The second game of the year, the 8:20 ESPN game, we play at Bank of America Park in Carolina against the Panthers. We're going to be doing our watch party at Ferg's that night, Sunday night, right?
Yeah, well, it's not a Sunday night, buddy. It's a Thursday night.
Well, then a Thursday night, even better. We win that game to go 2-0 that night. We'll have a midnight watch party.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely have a post-game show, and who knows how long we'll stay. Again, if the reaction is there, if people are still at Ferg's having a good time, we'll definitely do a post-game show. Once again, we have so much stuff planned for you guys. You just have to keep on tuning in here live on the Sports Web, the evolution of sports talk television nightly on Bucs Report. Join the 62,000 following on Facebook. Go ahead, guys.
No, I was going to say that, that I was doing some research this week. That new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, built by Populous, which is actually, it used to be previously the architects known as HOK. They actually have responsible for some NFL stadiums here in the United States. Heinz Field being one of them. So we'll see that in the first week. But the NFL had a big part in the building of that stadium. It's a joint project with the Tottenham Soccer Club and the NFL, and they've got huge locker rooms, great training facilities there. They've really stepped their game up. They've made a stadium that, if you want to talk about down the road a big game like a Super Bowl being played over there, there may be more built in the future, but that'll probably be your venue. That stadium, I'm really looking forward to some of the things we'll see about that stadium as that October 13th game against the Panthers approaches.
Somebody says it's easy to do that. Just tackle in the drills. That's what Steve Slick Probert says. And Alton Walker has definitely tuned in. Of course, one of the owners of the Tampa Bay Tornadoes, and of course, us being the official media partners of the Tampa Bay Tornadoes, the newest arena football team in the Tampa Bay area. So it's always good to have him on the broadcast. But let's get into this article that I was looking at from USA Today. And they were basically saying what I've kind of said from the beginning about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and how explosive they can be, according to Michael Middlehurst Schwartz, which, by the way, can we cut that name down just a little bit? I mean, it sounds like he's a lawyer or something. The Buccaneers offense with the NFL's oldest head coach hire at 66 is no doubt an outlier. The label, however, does not represent beyond his age as a former Cardinal head coach. His offense is down the field in an era where it is dink and duck. The focal point of this offense is going to be Jameis Winston. In fact, they put up a statistic. He is league leading 10.7 air yards per an attempt. The Bucs already have proven they can generate long gains with ease, only trailing the Chiefs in pass plays of 20 yards plus 71 pass plays last year, gentlemen, of 20 yards or more. That's behind the Kansas City Chiefs, but a league worst 35 turnovers. Very efficient with third in yardage at 415 and finished 12th in scoring at 25.8. While embracing the no risk it, no biscuit philosophy could be the biggest challenge for Winston, whose 76 giveaways are tied for most since 2015. He basically goes on to say, still so long as wide receiver Chris Godwin, tight end OJ Howard step up, and basically what they can do with the departures of Deshaun Jackson and Adam Humphries, Tampa could unearth the staying power that eluded it in 2018. So basically, what this writer is saying, and what I've heard a lot this week from various national pundits, is that they're really getting on board with this offense being explosive. And we've talked about it. It has the weapons. You have Mike Evans. You have Chris Godwin. After that, that's going to be a position of battle that you have to watch for in training camp. Who's going to be your third, fourth, fifth wide receiver? And then you're talking about fixing the running game, the offensive line, and the defense. And the writer mentions that those are the biggest questions coming into 2019. The running game, the offensive line, and, of course, the defense. Your thoughts?
Go ahead, Blake.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
We've always had the tools. The just main thing that we've missed for the bunch of seasons, besides the departure of Doug Martin, is a run game. We've been had the weapons. Like I said, it's just game time adjustments is what I think we've lacked for years to come in situations. Halftime adjustments in the game. We're putting up points, and then you have your defense giving up 29 points a game. So I think our philosophy from trying to change from just a defensive-minded team is well past since the hiring of Lovie Smith. Lovie Smith was the one that kind of put that whole offensive thing into motion. Shocker,
Sure.
defensive coordinator, did that. He started the offensive movement, and I think our offense is where it needs to be. We can rotate players in and out when they get older. Now we got a tight end, but we've always been in our own way. That's when the problem has always been in Tampa Bay. We hang in games. We find ways to lose games. We find ways to just not perform where we need to be, and we're stuck saying the same thing every offseason. Always left knowing we could have done more. And I just hope Arians, can change that all around coming in the next season.
Ray, what do you think?
Well, and for me, the exciting thing is I think one of the consistencies of Bruce Arians in anywhere he's been an offensive coordinator and, of course, a head coach in Arizona is he loves to use that slot receiver position. And I think that
That's why Godwin's going there.
Right, and you could see Godwin go in there. You could honestly, I'm not saying that this is necessarily going to happen, but you could see OJ. You could see OJ Howard move to the slot. You could see Mike Evans come in the slot for a play. You could actually mix play. He's got the receiving talent on his team. He's got several options to move into that slot. And remember, every time you move one, if you got a certain defensive back or a player that's isolated on Mike Evans, or that's isolated on Chris Godwin, and you're moving them inside and outside between the slot and the outside receiver, you're confusing the defense even more. And I think that I just really hope that, and then Blake alluded to this as well, I just hope that with all of these offensive, with the no risk it, no biscuit philosophy, that we can that use the pass to set up the run, because one of the reasons why I think we lose those, besides our kicking game, is probably also because we don't have a run that we can play possession football.
Yeah, no, and I definitely agree with that. And like I said, what you're watching right now is the evolution of sports talk television. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, along with Tampa Bay Ray Kennedy, Blake Cabell, Blake and Blake Sports. Also had Ken Nelson check in, both of the owners of the Tampa Bay Tornadoes. Steve Slick Probert says tackle accuracy is important. It's quite small. Got to get that running game going.
Absolutely.
There. Absolutely agree with that. And you just need to get White under contract so you have everyone on the roster. Vernon, I think they're definitely going to work on that. I don't see a holdout. Do you guys see a holdout at this point? I think the Bucs organization will get it done. And I think because the rules have been slotted where the player is slotted at a certain salary and it's not exorbitant, that you will get that done. That's why you don't see as many holdouts as you have in the olden days, as you would say there, Ray.
Well, and just like you see with Josh Jacobs and the talk they're having now in Oakland, I think because the money, the rookie salary cap is the money slotted. It's all just about how they're going to do the bonus, and I think that's where obviously where Devin is also having it's all about how they're going to do the bonus, the slot bonus, and once they
Yeah.
get out, and and that's one of the things I'm looking forward to seeing Josh Jacobs in Oakland as well. He's a talent, great kid, got a great story behind him, and I don't want to see anytime you see a holdout with Bosa a couple of years back, the first thing is you're always thinking, oh God, ego. What's this player's problem? You want to know that it's not more money. They've got the slotted rookie salary. Rookie salaries are slotted. But it's just all about the bonuses and how they work the language into the contract. So I think that with a guy like Devin White, an upstanding young man, I don't think there's. I'm sure it's a very short gray area. They're going to work this out.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of running backs, are we all on board with Peyton Barber and Ronald Jones?
To be honest, I like Barber and he's done well with the situations he's got. Am I comfortable? I'd be lying if I said yes. But that's just what we got right now, and he hasn't shown me that he's immature. He can't handle the position. He hasn't shown me that he's prone to fumble. He hasn't shown me things where I just like, oh no, we got to get him out of there. He's made do with what he's given. And Dirk Cutter didn't really use a whole lot of him in pass catching. He was I don't think we scratched the surface of his talent. And Ronald Jones, it was obviously he looked like a rookie last year. He had no clue. He was clueless in games and really didn't see the field that much. So hopefully with this coming year. But to answer your question, am I fully just confident in him too? I mean, no, I'm not. But that's what we got, and a good coach is going to get the best out of those two guys.
All right, hold that thought, guys. Let's make this a four-way. Let's get Mr. Joshua or Morgie on here.
This is my.
I didn't
I've
say
never
it
done it
wrong.
before.
I said it right. Will you shut up? Come on, Joshua. Welcome to the Sports Web, the evolution of sports talk television.
How you guys doing?
Doing
Good,
great, buddy.
Josh.
Good, good. It's good to be on. It's good to be on. I just wanted to talk sports. I saw Tampa Ray Kennedy on and Blake Cabell, obviously Peter Blake, and I just wanted to give my take.
Go
Josh's
for it.
take.
All right. Well, if we're talking about Ronald Jones, let's all rationalize this outgoing of excitement and everything else that's going into the Jones for his second year. Okay, didn't we see the same thing happen with Noah Spence? Didn't we see the same thing happen after Noah Spence tore his labrum in his shoulder? Not once, but twice. He came back. The first year, he wanted to go ahead and lower his weight, so he went from about 250 to about 230. All right, he went to that season. He wasn't productive. He went to the next season. He's thinking, okay, if I can't play as a smaller 4-3 defensive end, let me add some weight and try to bulk up. And the same thing happened. He put on about 25 pounds of weight, and he went into the same season, and he wasn't productive.
He didn't
Guys,
play.
everyone wants to see Ronald Jones do well. I want to see Ronald Jones do well. Bruce Arians wants to see Ronald Jones do well. Jason Light definitely wants to see Ronald Jones do well.
Oh yes.
Okay? At the end of the day, we have to see what happens because he hasn't put on pads. Okay, he hasn't played in a productive preseason game. All right,
Nope.
mind you, we all saw what happened to Ronald Jones last year in the preseason. It wasn't pretty. All right,
No,
he was given limited
he scored a
carries going into
touchdown,
the
right?
regular season. It wasn't pretty. So all the hype that's coming up around him, everything about the new system, it's great. I love it. I'm ready for it. But we got to see him play on the football field with pads.
Tell
See
him,
what he can
Josh.
do
Tell him.
when the lanes close down. Exactly. When the lanes
Tell
close
him.
down, can you make a play? Can you make a play out of nothing? So, the hype is there. I want to see it because a healthy Ronald Jones playing at peak performance can do nothing but good for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. But, let's hold the horses a little bit. Let's restrain ourselves, and let's see what happens in the preseason.
No, I absolutely agree with that. And look, Jones definitely has the potential. You saw last year preseason game, he wasn't very good. I think comments from Bruce Arians, how he's impressed the coaching staff is all well and good. You have Jason Light saying that he wants him to make the big jump. And Jameis Winston has even said he looks like a different player. But like you said, it all remains to be seen what happens in training camp and what happens in those game situations. But it also comes down to, fellas, the offensive line. The offensive line absolutely has to open up the holes. And I think it's going to be improved not only with the coaching, but also because you don't have Caleb Beninack at the right guard. And I know people keep on saying that's what you're saying, and you're like a broken record, but you have to think about it. If he was if he was your weakest link on that offensive line, then all those players had to basically compensate for him. And that messed up the offensive line in general. So whoever starts there, whether it's Alex Kappa or Wofford or somebody else that they decide to pick up, because again, the roster is still fluid, I think it's going to be a lot better than it was last year. Do we agree?
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
And right. No, I was going to say, so you have to go back to like the college highlights at USC to really see Ronald Jones Jr. Ronald Jones Jr. doing what he can do, and I mean, he definitely has the potential, the speed, and the elusiveness to take it to the house on any given play. And then with Peyton Barber, he's going to hit that hole, shoulder pad straight up and down, and he's going to make defenders think twice about stepping in his way. Now, he's not a Mike Allstott where defenders would run the opposite direction, but I think with Ronald Jones Jr. and Peyton Barber, we have the 1-2. But I guess, like you said, it depends on how that offensive line comes together, and if it's like the olden days. I mean, we definitely have the potential. We have the two different techniques, but I just hope that one of them can consistently catch the ball out of the backfield, because I think that kind of a release valve or release for Jameis Winston will not only get him out of trouble, but it'll make defenses play our receivers more honest and open up our offense.
Right. Yeah, Steve says Peyton Barber is a worker. I think it's Chief Bobby Ross says, I just hope the defense can get a stop this season. This article mentioned, the biggest point, they may have the most explosive offense, because you go back to the numbers last year, didn't translate to wins because once again, the defense is giving up what? How many points?
29, baby.
Okay,
29
so
points.
And you're giving up 29. So that's not a recipe for success. Most likely it's a recipe for disaster. Do we believe, all of us here in this conversation, and what you're watching is the Sports Web? I'm your host, Peter Blake, along with Blake Cabell, Ray Kennedy, and Joshua Amorgi. There you go. Yeah. Do we all agree that the defense will be improved with Todd Bowles being the defensive coordinator, with the personnel being improved because of that coaching going into 2019?
Absolutely. I mean, let's take a step back and look at his resume. Okay, Todd Bowles is a defensive coordinator in Arizona, produced top 10 defenses while he was there with Arians. Okay, he took that same sort of pedigree and brought it to the New York Jets, but it just didn't work out for him as a head coach. I think Boyles is in his natural fitting, his natural setting as a defensive coordinator for the Buccaneers. That's why I think the Buccaneers defense, if at the very least, will improve. There's nothing to lose by gaining Todd Bowles as the defensive coordinator, and I think that most NFL fans can agree on that. But one thing I really want to touch on, Peter, before we switch subjects here, sure. I know you'd mentioned the right guard position, and I thought it was really interesting. So we have Alex Kappa, and we have Beninack that are competing, I guess, now for the swing tackle right guard position. I'm pretty sure most Bucs fans heard of the signing from the Saints not too long ago. Josh Laribius. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing his name wrong.
Revis.
Right. So here's what it tells me. Okay, usually you have right guard signings this late in the season for depth, and that's one thing. Okay, Mr. Laribius is a 30-year-old right guard. Okay, anyone that you're signing, for me personally, that's 30 years old or over, I feel like you want him to have some sort of impact for the season. So this tells me one of two things. Okay, the first thing that it tells me is I think the Buccaneers have seen enough of Alex Kappa and Caleb Beninack's tape in order to realize that they need a little bit more help at the right guard position than they initially anticipated. And that's a good and a bad thing. I'm not sure what Josh Laribius can bring to this team. I'm not sure what his pedigree is. Obviously, he's a 30-year-old right guard who's, he played with the Saints. I'm not sure if he's bounced around the league. But to have that signing this late in the offseason, just a couple of weeks before training camp, should speak volumes to what the coaching staff believes that we have at right guard. And Whether or not we pick up someone right after preseason or someone to fill in that void, what it tells me is coaches believe that we have a void at right guard. And if that's something that we're looking at towards this season, looking forward to a productive run offense with Peyton Barber and with Ronald Jones, if I'm a defensive coordinator and I realize there is a massive gap at right guard for a team that I'm playing against, I'm going to stack my box to the left. And I think for most people, it's very simple. You have a DeMar Dotson who's been a stable guy. He's been like a rock for this team since 2009. That's great. That's fine. That's dandy. He's also 32 years old. We don't know how many years he has left, and we don't know what sort of season he's going to bring to us. He's coming off of an injury, so
Again,
the verdict's still out for that. But right guard is a massive, massive hole for this Buccaneers team, and I do not think that the run game or the offense as a whole will get better unless that position is at least taken care of with a depth signing or a trade. It's a serious deal.
let me jump
It's a
in.
great point, and it kind of echoes the article or the report that was put out there from Jenna Lane of ESPN that she believes the Buccaneers could be making a move on the interior line. And as I've always said, just because it seems like the roster is set doesn't necessarily mean it is. Somebody could get cut. They could be looking at somebody to get cut and sign them and put them in there and be a plug and play player, because you never know who's going to get released or let go. You look at Carl Nassib, he was cut, and the Bucs jumped right on him, and he was a starter and had 6.5 sacks and were productive, and they really like this kid and think the world of him, think he's going to be the future of their defense. So you just never know, but I agree with you on that. They may have watched tape and saw Alex Kappa, but you invested a 3rd-round pick, right, in Kappa. So eventually you would think that Jason Light and Bruce Arians and even Harold Godwin would want this kid to start eventually, right?
That's the plan. That's the plan. We just have to wait and see.
Josh is right. Guard is a position because you don't have anyone on the roster, because not only Caleb Benenot and Alex Kappa, they aren't right guards. They're tackles.
Yeah.
I said that so right there they're playing out of position. And Caleb Benenot, we'll all agree, look lost a lot of the time in that season. And me doing with the spotlight I'm doing for each week, looking at our player spotlight for week 1 against the 49ers, Alex Kappa got blown by a lot too at guard, probably because he's not familiar with the position. We wanted to see what we had. With that being said, Dotson is not going to be around longer, so either Caleb Benenot or Kappa are going to be replacing him at the right tackle position where they're familiar with playing. And if I really had to say if there's an odd man out, what Josh was saying, we just picked up that Saints lineman. He's also a swing player. When I say swing player, he plays center and guard. Who else on our roster plays those two positions besides
Evan Smith?
Yeah, no, Evan Smith. I was going to say our left guard. I just brain fart real quick.
Oh, Marpet.
Marpet can play center, but
coming up,
it was Evan Smith. Is odd man out.
Right. No, I definitely agree with you. And he's coming off those injuries to his hips and stuff. So, and he's making about $2 or $3 million. So, Blake, you bring up a great point. I would not be surprised if they decide to move on from him and pick up another interior player. But it's a great conversation. Let's go out to Bucs Report here. Let's talk with these guys. It's going to be a slow process to come together and be a fluid team on offense and defense. Do we agree with that?
Yeah, that's right.
See,
they'll work together.
I don't buy that. And I guess because I look at it and I see a real coach here and I see a real coaching staff that will bring this all together. And it won't take as long as a lot of people think it's going to.
Agreed.
Right.
I think that the Buccaneers fan base as a whole has seen 10 years. And we'll be frank. We're all watchers here of the team. We've seen 10 years of subpar play.
Yep.
I think 10 years of subpar play can convince any sports watcher that their team isn't as good as they want them to be or would like them to be. Okay. The thing is, we haven't had a coach like Bruce Arians in the Buccaneers organization since John Gruden, since Tony Dungy. And I think a lot of players nowadays are getting into a mindset where it's like, okay, new coach, we can't look at this like a Greg Schiano. We can't look at this like a
Oh
Raheem
God.
Morris. You know what I mean? We can't sit here and not acknowledge the fact that we had a 2-time AP Coach of the Year, okay, who took a rookie Andrew Luck and produced a Pro Bowler, who took a young Ben Roethlisberger and made him into the Hall of Famer that he is today.
Some
Okay,
people argue he didn't do that, but go on.
you know, who took? I mean, seriously. Let's be honest here. He took an older 33, 34-year-old Carson Palmer, who by that time in Arizona wasn't playing the best ball.
Washed up.
Took him that year and produced an MVP season. Guys, Carson Palmer at his age, if you compare Carson Palmer at his age to what Jameis Winston has produced in the first 4 years of his career,
Don't even
I
sniff
think
it.
Bruce Arians on this staff should make Tampa Bay ecstatic. And I say that with emphasis because we haven't had a coach of his caliber here since 2007, and that's the facts.
Good point. It's absolutely a good point, Joshua. And what you're watching right now is the evolution of sports talk television. It's the Sports Web. A nightly Bucs report show here with everybody getting on. We have yours truly, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Tampa Bay, Ray Kennedy, Blake Cabell, Blake and Blake Sports, and of course, Mr. Joshua.
Hey,
One more. All right, let's read some comments here. A solid O-line would guarantee more points, period. Blake, what do you got going on over there, man? Buckaholics in the house. Mr. Robert Horton is tuned in, and G. Bobby Ross says, I hope not. So he was saying a solid O-line can guarantee more points, period. Absolutely, because look, if you can protect that quarterback, if you can open up those holes for that running game, then I think that provides that balance. And I think that's the important thing looking at this article. You could talk about all the weapons you have on the outside, but if your offensive line isn't giving that quarterback the necessary time to find those weapons, then you're going to be in some trouble. And that's when turnovers happen. Is the turnover thing too much for you? Are you tired of hearing about Jameis Winston and the turnovers? Is it that big of a deal, or is it something we need to focus on going into this season this year, gentlemen?
when you're forcing the, go ahead, Josh.
Sorry, no, I'm here for a take. I'm here for a take. If we think about this and we rationalize when Jameis was a productive quarterback in the NFL and when Jameis wasn't as productive in the NFL. Okay, let's look back to 2015. When Jameis came as a rookie in the NFL with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who did he have at running back?
Doug Martin.
Who did he have at running back that had a 1,400-yard season and almost
Martin.
the double-digit touch? Doug Martin. Okay.
Yeah.
Jameis Winston is a prolific play-action pass quarterback, and I think all of us have seen this. We all witnessed that great scramble that he had against the Chicago Bears where he duked and dodged 4 different defenders and was still able to launch a 50-yard bomb down to Mike Evans. The thing about Jameis, if he has a productive run offense, Jameis is a stellar, borderline elite quarterback. I don't think that can be questioned by any coach around the league. When Jameis has subpar games, when Jameis has the 3 to 4 interception games, Jameis is playing from behind. Jameis is playing with an offense that didn't have a running attack. Jameis is playing with an offense that had 30 to 40 rushing yards in the first half. He's down by 21, and he's trying to play from 28-21 down in the second half. It's been a reoccurring theme with the Buccaneers, and I think Bruce Arians, whether we believe it or not, he might see something in Peyton Barber for his offense predicated and the zone blocking scheme that they run that we haven't seen for Dirk Cutter. I think that Peyton Barber is going to have a bigger role in this offense than he did last year, simply based on the fact that Bruce Arians is going to know what to do with him. Essentially, I'm not saying that Cutter didn't know what to do with him last year. I'm just simply saying that Bruce Arians is a better coach. I don't think that can be argued or denied. So, with that being said, with everything that's been going on with Peyton Barber throughout the offseason, all the good talk, everything that's been going on with how he's looking, his weight's been down, he's been looking really shifty. I'd love to see, I'd love to see him. I'd love to see Ronald Jones be the 1-2 punch that Tampa Bay's been looking for the past couple of years. And I think with a productive run offense, Jameis will flourish. And we've seen it happen. We've seen it happen in 2015. There's no reason to suspect that it can't happen in 2019.
Tampa Bay Ray Kennedy, you've been quiet over there. What's your thought process on this offense going forward?
Well, I'll tell you, my battery's getting ready to run out here. So
Mine too.
I was just thinking, I wanted to say that, like you alluded to, Peter. I mean, we are rookies report on the 21st, which is like what 9 days away, or no, 11 days away. We got season will start Tuesday report to camp. It's we're a month out now from our first game, I believe, against Pittsburgh Steelers. It's going fast.
Sure.
I want to see, and I think that's one of the reasons why we were talking about the implementation of this, what Bruce Arians, the culture change he's trying to make to it about not music. It's not so much that he's anti-music, anti-players having fun. If you go back and look at the Carolina Panthers or with the Cardinals, and you go back and look at the Steelers, Arians, he may not be in the celebration, but I mean he lets his players really get out to meet individuals. I think that we'll see that as we get closer to the regular season, you'll start to see the fact that he's going to he just wants to make sure that the culture they take on is one of seriousness and not of the lackadaisical one they've had the whole decade.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, guys, I want to get you all out of here on this, and then we'll probably end the show. But thanks a lot for joining me here on the Sports Web, the evolution of sports talk television. There was a report today that another recorded conversation with Tyreek Hill and his girlfriend, child's mother, Crystal Espinal. And basically, he denies that he did anything in 2014. It comes out that the NFL has this tape. Does the NFL finally throw the book at this guy? I mean, did they finally suspend him for 10 games because his kid's arm was broken? He's had domestic battery charges, strangulation. He basically got 3 years of probation, so a slap on the wrist. He got it expunged, and now this comes out to where basically he's not taking full responsibility after he pleaded guilty. Should the NFL and Roger Goodell put the screws to this guy and suspend him to make an example out of him? Because it doesn't seem like it's getting through to Tyreek Hill.
Heck yeah.
I mean, God, the name escapes me. The wide receiver for New England, and I love this kid to watch him play, but with the
Josh
drug,
Gordon.
right? I mean, once again, they're already, him and Brady are out doing practice. I'm not saying people don't deserve second chances or third chances, but I mean, I think the NFL, there is a bit of a double standard because there are, and when you turn on the Chiefs game, you want to see two things. You wanted to see Mahomes throwing a no-look pass, but you want to see Tyreek Hill because he can just shoot guys out of their cleats. He's a great player, but I mean, this has been going on and on and on. The team to and Goodell doesn't have anything, comes out and says anything about it, and calls him to New York for a meeting. But I mean, if there's another thing and it continues to go on, now they got to put their foot down on this because moving forward, there's going to be other issues that pop up, and Goodell's going to have to put his foot down at some point. We can't let people slide, and then it happens to a free agent. No, we're going to make it 20.
Yeah, it says he basically had an 8-hour interview with the NFL on June 26th. In 2016, he says, people have every right to be mad at me because I did something wrong. I was guilty. And then, these comments now basically show his refusal to show remorse and accept responsibility. And that's what it comes down to, Blake and Joshua. He's not showing responsibility. We all know, and I think it is a double standard because I think the NFL is a joke with the stance that they've taken against Gordon with his marijuana compared to domestic battery, abusing your child. I mean, some really bad things, and I get it. Hill is very talented as much as Gordon is, probably more talented than Gordon, but these accusations, some of this stuff that's coming out, this is brutal. He needs to be suspended for a long period of time. Would you fellas agree?
Yeah, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. And I'll reiterate what Ray said here. It is a double standard. It is a double standard, and I'll tell you why. Because when you look at some of these players around the league, and I'll specify owners, Robert Kraft, Have we heard anything about his situation that's gone on since it's happened, or has the
Nothing.
NFL sort of, fluffed that a bit and let bygones be bygones, and
He's
Robert Kraft still has
gonna
his
get
spot?
off.
It's a huge double standard. All right, what did we see? What did we see with Ezekiel Elliott? Okay, he got a 6-game suspension for doing what? For beating someone. He
Right.
was seen on video hitting someone. So here's
Yeah.
here's the thing. Here's the thing with the NFL. It looks to me as if you're a great player, you equal or you equate to great ratings. All right, and at the end of the day, players can say whatever they want to say, owners can say whatever they want to say, but when it comes down to NFL, when it comes down to revenue, when it comes down to ratings, okay, the NFL is going to want to see Tyreek Hill more than they're going to want to see Josh Gordon, and the reason being is he has a better rating. NFL fans want to flock to Tyreek Hill to watch him play because he's an electrifying player, right?
Sure.
What did we see here happen when Tom Brady, the whole tuck rule was introduced because of that injury that he had? He tore his ACL. He was out for the season. He had a whole new rule introduced because of that happening.
Yeah.
The thing that I noticed about that was I think the NFL is more upset that Tom Brady was not playing for a full 16-game season than the fact that the actual play was a safe and not non-illegal play. I think the rule was implemented because the NFL had decided to themselves, wow, we're not going to have Tom Brady on television. We're not going to have Tom Brady on ESPN or Fox for 16 games. What do we do to make sure this doesn't happen again? That's where the
Yeah.
double standard comes into place because we only see that with top tier players. Small guys with smaller offenses are getting full year, half year, complete indefinite suspensions with the NFL, and it is a huge double standard. It can't just be for the guys who aren't getting first and second string snaps. It should be for everyone. So
Yeah.
I agree with Ray on that, and I think it's unfair. Regarding Tyreek Hill, though, the NFL needs to put their foot down. The guy needs a suspension. We heard everything that was said on that tape, and a few things. If you guys go ahead and listen to that tape between Tyreek Hill and the mother of his child, it's a bit disturbing. It's not something
Yeah.
that you want to hear from a father to a mother. It's not.
No, it sounds like a guy that's gotten away with it. He's not contrite. He is not remorseful with the situation. He doesn't care, and he needs to be punished. And the
Well,
NFL is good about that with the code of conduct. Blake, what do you think?
Well, I was saying, what happened with Adrian Peterson? He was on the Vikings. He wasn't.
Yeah.
He wasn't in his golden years, but he wasn't where Tyreek Hill is at such a young age and such an electrifying offense, an integral part of that offense. And he basically was facing, I think, pretty much similar charges, and not even with the tape recordings and the dialogue. And wasn't he suspended an entire year? And the Vikings, what, they cut him?
I mean, it was a situation where he was not paid. He was suspended without pay, I believe. He was suspended for a while, but this is even worse. I mean, you're talking about what, a 2-3-year-old kid that has a broken arm. I mean, he's got a broken arm, and,
It's
and
terrible. It's terrible.
the authorities are saying we don't know who did it. I don't care who did it. Throw them both away.
Here's my spin on that.
No.
So y'all know I got a law enforcement background. So the NFL needs to figure out what they are. You're not law enforcement. And the reason I say that is you need to come with standards to your league and you hold it to that. And with that being said, you need to also go to all 32 owners of those 32 teams. They are also responsible for having standards to your team. Meaning, I'm just going to use this example. The Dallas Cowboys cut somebody from their team because they do not meet player etiquette for a situation. You cut him, and then that means the Giants can pick him up later because that fills a need on their team. The NFL, that needs to be across everywhere in the league. If that means banning a player or somebody not picking up people later on after their suspensions and stuff like that, because like if
Kareem Hunt.
you're breaking a 2 and a 3-year-old kid's arm, that's not an accident. That's not something. That's not like driving DUI, which could a lot of people have done that and had got caught. You're breaking a 2-year-old's arm. and you want to
That's someone
suspend.
with an anger issue. That's someone with a very
That's
bad
not.
anger.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was an accident. That's not that. So they need to figure out what you want to be. Do you want to be this? Well, we'll let this guy play, but not this guy because he likes marijuana. But this guy broke somebody's arm, or this guy killed somebody driving drunk. You need to hold a standard. Period, and that needs to be against from the league with Goodell down to the teams as well.
Hey guys, speaking of marijuana, let's just
Yeah.
go ahead and agree. Hey, get that off the list for suspension. It's not a enhancing drug. I believe it's actually clinically shown. It's got healing properties. It keeps the players off the opioids and other things. And if that's the reason why they're making the stands with him and they're being lax on that, I'm all for that. But come out and say it. Just come out and say, you know what? It's only legal in 11 states, recreational in 8. But we're not. No, we're no longer going to necessarily observe that as a but I mean, if a player's a resident using it illegally, then you have to address it from a law standpoint.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
and I
I
think they
think
should take a stance. Go ahead, Josh. I'm sorry.
no. I'm saying I just think that with respect to everything that Ray just said, I think it's more or less because when you look at the two leagues that are really implementing that rule a bit, the NFL and the NBA. The NBA is obviously a lot less lax. They don't
You
test for
ain't
those things. I think
you
the
ain't seen
reason
no
is
suspensions.
it all has to do with your audience. A lot of people want to think it's the players. A lot of people want to think it's the ratings. It has to do with your audience.
Yep.
Okay? If you have backlash from a guy in the NFL, Dante Stallworth, you guys know about his DUI manslaughter
Yep.
situation. We all know about it. The Josh Gordons, everyone else who's been popped for the weed and everything else regarding stuff like that.
They smoke
You
a
get
lot. I
popped for something like that in the NFL. There's reprimations for that, but it's typically based off of your audience. So what it's starting to sound like to me is NFL fans aren't as receptive to the idea of NFL players using recreational or medical marijuana for medicinal purposes to heal their bodies after the games, more so than NBA players are with NBA fans. Now,
Rude.
is there a way for Roger Goodell to implement this and to make it to where we don't have star players like Josh Gordon being lost for seasons for infractions that let's be honest with ourselves, half the country's already passed legally. And
Yep.
we won't dive into that, exclusively, but the fact of the matter is, I'd rather have someone, and this is my personal opinion, I'd rather have someone who's been busted for a small infraction like that. I'd rather have a Josh Gordon on my team who I know isn't a child abuser, who I know isn't out partying every night, aka Josh Freeman, who I know isn't going out and doing the wrong things every single weekend instead of being in his books and doing what he has to do, rather than a guy who I don't know who's going to show up to the facility, do what he needs to do here at work, but then go home and then be a completely different man to his kids and his wife. It's a difficult scenario, but there has to be a way to implement policy in order to structuralize all of this. And like I said, Ray, it goes back to your fan base. At the end of the day, the NFL fan base is not receptive to having NFL players use medical marijuana in order to take care of their bodies throughout the season and throughout the offseason. Whereas the NBA, where it's not tested for, NBA fans are much, much, much more receptive to that.
to
And
go.
are we gonna get to a point where that's more receptive for NFL fans? Maybe, we don't know. Is it gonna happen next season? I doubt it.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, let's read some comments and then we'll end it off for the night. We'll get some final thoughts from you guys here. Thanks a lot for coming on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television,
Always.
the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, along with Mr. Blake Cabell of Blake and Blake Sports, Tampa Bay, Ray Kennedy, and of course, Joshua
Josh the
Morgie.
Juice Omorgi.
Thank you.
Ben says cautious optimism is the best approach with the Bucs team right now. Jameis starts winning games and everything will be laid to rest. That's
It's
what
not
Robert
always his
Horton.
fault, though.
I agree. Rojo, Joey says, Byron Moore says playoffs.
Yeah.
Ben says a good offensive line will be the key to both Jameis and the running back success this season.
I heard.
Christopher Cole says he totally agrees with you. And Justin says, what's up, fellas? Guys, final thoughts.
Well,
Let's
I want to thank.
let
I
Well,
want to
one
thank.
at a time.
Well,
Who
let's-
no,
wants
I
to
mean,
go?
I'll just say my final thoughts here, and I'll get off. I'm really, really happy that you guys brought me on here. Definitely glad that Peter Ray, Blake, you guys allowed me to have my take. Just looking forward to the Buccaneers season in 2019. I'm ecstatic to see, three new coaches, if we're talking offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and head coach this year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm really excited to see some of these rookies play in the defensive backfield. I'm a little bit worried about the right guard position, but I feel as if, Bruce Arians has that. There's something. He has a plan for that position. I'm well aware he might know that that's not going to happen. Week one with Earl Wofford or Alex Kappa. But I'm excited for the defense. I'm excited for this offense. I'm excited for this new season, this new staff. And boy, you guys are in for a treat because it feels a little bit different this offseason than it has been in recent years, and that's for sure.
It really does. Great job as always, Mr. Joshua Amorji. Thanks a lot for joining the Sports Web. All right, bud?
Thanks, guys.
The
All right,
juice.
there you go. So he definitely brought it tonight. Blake, what's your final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Oh, Tampa Bay Buccaneers is looking forward to a whole new culture change. I'm ready to get this football going with August rolling up here for preseason. I'm looking forward to everything going. If I just want to say one final thought, just win, baby.
Yeah, right. You know what? On that note, let's get out of here. See you later. All right, Tampa Bay, Ray Kennedy.
Just the two of us. Hey, Pete, thanks for letting me come on tonight. I was going to.
Yeah, man.
I wanted to thank marijuana because if it wasn't for marijuana, Warren Sapp would not have fallen to us when he did, and we would have not gotten the Hall of Fame defensive lineman we did. I also want
Great
to.
point. Great point, Ray.
Marijuana for letting Laramie Tunsil fall to the Dolphins the way he did. I think at number 14. I think that as time pans out, I think we're learning that he is going to be a pretty darn good offensive lineman. But my final thought is we've got 5 weeks to go. We're still perfecting our product. The Bucs Report, we're working on our watch parties. We're still out at Ferg's every weekend. Come out and join us. And, brother, it's been a pleasure.
Hey, man, I don't know if we're going to be out there this Saturday because I do have a nephew here. He's turning 2, so I have to be out there for his birthday party. But maybe we'll shoot for Sunday. We'll see what weather is and what everybody's schedule is. But, man, as always, Tampa Bay Ray Kennedy, you brought it on the Sports Web. Thank you very much, sir.
Brother, love you.
I love you too, bro. All right, so there you go, Mr. Tampa Bay Ray Kennedy. That's it from here. We're going to wrap it up for tonight here on the Sports Web. We will have Mr. Leo Haggerty of Night Sports Productions, former Coach Scout and now media member. Most likely tomorrow night, live at 9 or 9:30. Just watch for the teaser. We will definitely have him on if we can get Ray off of there. But we'll have him on tomorrow night. We'll be getting his thoughts about everything from the NFL to NBA. Leo Haggerty always has something to say. And then, of course, it is what the hell were they thinking on Wednesday night? We'll get your fans' responses. Make sure you download the Be Live app. We'll send you the link, and you can get on with us. Yours truly, along with Leo Haggerty, on the evolution of Sports Talk Television Nightly here on Bucs Report. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake. Have a great night.
You're now in the Sports Web, a sports talk show for the hardcore fan. Bring your passion, bring your excitement, just don't bring any nonsense.